that's opening up, probably around 2015. It's going to get tough for you. So you can look at the numbers. You can look at the numbers in detail, but the main thing is watch out for energy supply. Don't have a David Cameron windmill on the top of your office, along with a hamster down the basement on the wheel and the rubber band transmission mechanism. Get something serious as standby without panicking, because if the lights go out, you've really got a problem, even with Sage software. And my demand for the noughties and the teenies, Battersea Power Station should be a power station. This will make me very unpopular in South London, where I live. I'm even in favor of it being nuclear, but it's about time. Energy supply, not energy conservation, is what we should be debating about and what you should be lobbying for. Well, there's also a housing crisis. What's the problem there, and how do we sort of balance up one side of it with another side to it and come to some resolution? That's important. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Well, here's what they've been doing in Tokyo and elsewhere in Japan. Toyota makes these houses. They cost about £150,000. Now, you might not like the Tudor Beethoven aesthetics there, ladies and gentlemen, and indeed the Japanese guy on the left looks sick as a dog about them. But it does show that we don't have to rely on mud, rain, and low-paid Poles, much as I love the Poles, to deliver the houses of the future, to make sure that you don't live with your grandchildren for 30 years and so on. Here they are making these factory-built houses. If you want a bigger wardrobe, because you've got an obesity problem, you just dial it in with Sage software. It's the way to go. How long does it take to build one of these houses? Anybody like to guess? Prefabs, but for the new century. Is it 6 months? 6 weeks? 6 days? 6 hours. 6 hours. Now, I know that, like Japan, 90% of Britain is mountainous, and the terrain doesn't possibly allow for anything good like this. The vernacular architecture with Telford bricks is much more important than, Toyota architecture. But I respectfully submit that, it's a risk to go into manufactured housing, but it's not as big a risk as me living with my son for 30 years, and it's not as big a risk as the totals for house building in this country going down beneath 100,000 a year. Macmillan built 400,000 a year. We will not refresh the installed base of housing in this country completely for another millennium. That's how bad the housing crisis has got. So what's the problem? Do we have a technology problem, or do we have a problem that it's impossible to put up a conservatory outside my front door without the regulators moving in? What's protected since Duncan Sands established the Green Belt? That's the Green Belt, folks. Areas of outstanding natural beauty, you can't build a house there. Important bird areas like the Severn, you can't build there. And you add it all up, and the white bits are where we're allowed to live. The birds and the bees have really triumphed with the Town and Country Planning Act of 1947-8. So don't give me that stuff about concreting over the southeast, right? That's not happening. We're the most protected landmass in the OECD area. The problem is not the technology. The problem is that a lot of middle-class Daily Mail readers, plus their friends in Whitehall, will not deregulate the land in this country, so you and I can go to a farmer and put up a reasonable house pretty much anywhere we like. Yes, let's protect Snowdonia and the Pennines. I'm not a Philistine, but let's not imagine that the Green Belt doesn't need building on. It's expanding, actually. Forests are expanding, especially in Scotland. Get the numbers, you'll find out. So adding scheduled monuments is even worse. Now, when we're talking construction, anybody know what this is? Because this is a very important issue. The CBI, I made the speech last night, CBI comes in this morning saying infrastructure, very important. This is not a housing project. This is in China, the high-speed train system, slicing through towns. Continental system, doesn't quite stretch to Tibet, but it's pretty amazing. If you look at just the Beijing-Shanghai line, where they're cutting journey times from 10 to 4 hours, they're using a lot of birds' nests down there. And you look at the numbers, Obama, 8 billion, China, 300 billion. It's the main item of their stimulus program. 16,000 miles of track they're building, circumference of the Earth, 25,000 miles. So they're nearly girdling the Earth just inside China, moving at a speed of 220 miles an hour. You can't cycle your way from Beijing to Shanghai, whatever Greens say. You can't drive there because you're too poor, and you can't fly there because you're too poor. But you can take a train there. And I can tell you, if you've ever been to Shanghai or Nanjing railway station, displays, ladies and gentlemen, you want to check out those displays. They really make the worst bits of Sage software look totally easy. But they'll be working on it. They got IBM working on it. So that's how it looks, and that's how it looks from the flight deck. Do I really think that we're going to build a high-speed train system that will cut journey times from Birmingham to London to 45 minutes? I'd like to see it. I know that the Conservatives have agreed with Labour that it's time to commence to start to begin to get ready to plan to draw up a blueprint for, maybe one day kind of getting there. But I put it to you that unless you are out there combating the NIMBYs and above all combating the obstructionists in Whitehall, we're not going to get it anything like the Chinese get. I know we've got the China's terrain problems, but worse. There's deserts between Birmingham and Telford, and all of this stuff. But, if they can do it, we can do it, but we're not doing it. So, you've got the tendency for innovation there, especially from the East. You've got the counter tendency of risk consciousness, risk aversion, and regulation, and not wanting to offend the middle classes in Whitehall. What comes out of that, I think on balance, stasis. You've seen that movie about human resources, Shift Happens. I've got to tell you, if you look at Obama, Merkel, the man in Japan whose name I forget, or this government, it's not shift happens, drift happens. Drift happens. That's my forecast for the future. So we're nearly done. Anybody know what this is? It's not the atomic bomb, I'm pleased to say. It's India's challenge to fatalism. We know that the moon is a dead world. No life on the moon, no possibilities on the moon. Why go to the moon? Obama's ruled it out, But it just so happens, as you will remember last year, that India, with 1 feet, overtook China and established the most amazing stuff, that there's a whole lot of water on the moon. What a terrific challenge to fatalism that was. What a terrific impetus for going to Mars that will be, because you can mine the water on the moon and do stuff with it. So this is what we need to remember, that the future is not about, is there going to be a double dip? Because that's presenting the future as what happens to you. The future is what you make happen. And the internet and Sage and IT has a powerful productivity-raising and new market-creating role to play. And that's what we forget in a world of impotency and pessimism and fatalism, just the whole idea of human agency, that what you can do with IT remains a terrific challenge and a terrific opportunity. So get out of the risk consciousness, take risks. If you look at the BP disaster, they took the wrong kind of risks, they made mistakes, but also they filled out the forms. Do you know this? If you check it out, they said, no, our oil rig drilling in the Gulf of Mexico will not harm walruses, right? Although there are no walruses in the Gulf of Mexico. So did they have the tick box mentality where risk management becomes kind of risk aversion? You say, no problem, no problem, no problem. Eventually you go, no problem when there is a problem, because you're so obsessed with fixing the regulators, you're not even paying attention. I know what I'm talking about, because I've been to the North Sea. I've been 100 meters beneath the North Sea, down a leg in one of those places. You don't want to go there, right? So, take risks and do a mature, grown-up assessment of risk-taking. Avoid fatalism. Ladies and gentlemen, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. You small and medium enterprises can do that. You must do that, because we can't rely on a whole lot of people we want to rely on to invent the future. To conclude, there's a lot of common thinking and